Hey there, detectives. We're looking for some more Pokemon evolutions hidden deep within their Dex entries. Some real sneaky ones this time. Like maybe a rounder and smoother Onix, or even the secret evolution to Ditto. But you'll have to wait till the end to uncover that one. If you want to help me find more Dex entry Evos, comment below a Pokemon's Dex entry that you think may hint towards a secret evolution that'll blow this case wide open. But first, there's another case to solve. One provided by today's video sponsor, our first sponsor. How exciting! And who better to sponsor this video than Alestral's Awakened and their Kickstarter campaign? Alestral's Awakened is a brand new 2.5D pixel art monster catching RPG from the creator of the Alestral's trading card game. Now, if that name sounds familiar, and as a Pokemon fan, I'm sure you know it. It's probably because A-Drive, one of the biggest Pokemon creators out there, is the founder of Alestrals, and he's teamed up with Shady Penguin as the game's creative director. Between the two of them, they've got over 40 years of experience making and playing monster-catching games, and it shows with this project having some serious firepower behind it. Alestrals Awakened is a game that ties directly into the TCG and the Alestrals universe, and even future projects. We have longevity here, and what a universe it is to explore. The Kickstarter is running October 14th through November 7th, and backing it is the only way to get alpha and beta access, exclusive in-game unlocks, and limited Kickstarter promo packs. You can even get your own NPC or caster in the game. So if you love monster catching games, back Alestrals Awakened now, using my link below in the description or pinned comment before the campaign ends. You don't want to miss this, detective. Thanks so much for sponsoring me, Alestrals Awakened, and let's get back to the video. Alright, let's start with an evolution to everyone's favorite, Coughing. Coughing's Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee Dex entry states, in hot places, its internal gases could expand and explode without any warning. Be very careful. Although the other ones also talk about exploding and all that, I thought of something interesting. What about a place that's always quite warm and filled with volcanoes? And the trail led me to Alola. This evolution is based off volcanoes and the volcanic smog that is kicked up from said eruption. The kind that kind of just sits in the air and blocks the sky. Some real nasty stuff there, to be sure. Our poor Coughing is just completely drained of all of its life after exploding, and now is nothing but a small little husk in the kind of shape of a volcano down there. Hello, little guy, hello! While all the fame is taken up by Smog, this massive, sassy, smug gas cloud that would probably have similar animations and textures to that of Torkoal's gas cloud, just with the added, and may I say quite on the nose, skull pattern sitting atop of it. I feel like if James had gotten another Coughing in Alola instead of his normal Wheezing or Marini, it would have been cool to have this giant menace with him as the perfect foil. He could even hold onto the tiny exploded Coughing like a little baby. Aww. Smog. The gas cloud Pokemon are poison and fire type. Coughing evolves into Smog after using self-destruct while in hot places. Smog are living gas clouds that are incredibly rude. They use their horrid smell to bully other Pokemon into doing its bidding. Their method of evolution makes Smog incredibly common in the Alola region, but are predated on by Alolan Grimer and Muck. The small, desiccated body beneath them are Smog's weak spot. Hitting it will enrage Smog, however. Smog have the abilities Levitate and Aftermath. Continuing the trend of environmental disaster, let's do Cubchoo and their Scarlet Dex entry. Many of this species can be found along the shorelines of cold regions. If a Cubchoo lacks dangling snot, there's a chance it is sick. Well, that's kinda sad. My idea here was, instead of the very feral Beartic, covered in, the frosty ice, the Cubchoos were in a warmer environment and evolved to look constantly sick. A proper quadrupedal polar bear for this evolution. I wanted Fever here to have all of the makings of a sick-looking person. They wouldn't have the runny nose anymore, but their muzzle would be constantly heated up, having this sort of warm, glowing look to it. And they even look sad from the sickness, and to really push it even further, they have a big tuft of fur on their head that looks like one of those sick bags you'd put on your head. Well, I don't think anyone's done that in a very long time, unless they are in cartoons, but whatever. To really complement it all and to make them look as warm and snug and comfy as possible, I decided to give them a patterned blanket on their back that also doubles as a katatsu, one of those Japanese heating tables. They just look really rugged up and super comfy, but if I'm being honest, way too warm for little old me. I already run way too hot, and no, I'm definitely not commenting on my looks. Fever, the feverish Pokemon of Fire and Ice type. Cubchoo evolves into Fever while walking 1,000 steps while under the burnt status condition. Fever have an amazing ability to regulate their temperature, and so they can be found in both warm and cold climates. Cubchoo are usually kept close to Fever in warmer climates to keep them from getting too hot. Fever in the past were overhunted due to their patterned warm fur pelts, which has led to them being a rare sight in most regions. Fever have the abilities Snow Cloak and Thick Fat. Next one is for our little spiky nut Ferroseed and their shield dex entry, which states, mossy caves are their preferred dwellings. Enzymes contained in mosses help Ferroseed spikes to grow big and strong. I had the idea for this one to be sort of a similar idea to Ferrothorn, but instead of whatever is going on here, Ferroflail decide to eat all that delicious moss instead of minerals, and becomes this super spiky, kind of overquill looking lad, based off a knight's flail, which, a peak weapon. I wanted it to have some Delmire's energy, with it having sort of this mossy anchor arm, which it would attach to caves and then hang itself there till a trainer comes along and it just starts screeching and waving about, smashing into the cave walls, just being a real menace. It was hard to make it super distinct from Ferrothorn, apart from making it spikier and more rounded than, the frisbee shape. But I think this one turned out pretty well, and it separates itself from Ferrothorn by being grass fighting instead. Ferroflail, the wild Pokemon, a grass and fighting type, evolves from Ferroseed when exposed to a leaf stone. Ferroseed that spend long periods of time in mossy caves become Ferroflail. They'll then proceed to stay within that cave, forever defending its territory. They use their single long arm to anchor themselves to a roof, and then will swing around recklessly attempting to stab the foe. Ferroflail have the abilities Iron Barbs and Reckless. Alright, let's do Onix next, and this is a combo of a few of their dex entries, specifically the Emerald entry, which states, there is a magnet in its brain that prevents an Onix from losing direction while tunneling. As it grows older, its body becomes steadily rounder and smoother. And while this one does look similar to Louis Zhong's version, ours, it's a little different. I decided to play off the magnetic part a bit here. When I was younger, I had a bunch of ball magnets which I played with all the time, and made sense to have this sort of round, smooth Onix made of these kind of magnetic ball material. Of course, they are an old man, and so all the magnetism has collected a bunch of magnetic shavings, which now sit on their body to make a dashing beard and some extra little flourishes all around. Because Magnetics here is rock electric type, I feel like they pair up with a Steelix a lot to breed, being inseparable, not just because, mating pairs, but also because of magnetism, and I think that is beautiful in its own way. I made the magnets a bit too shiny for the start. I think I still wanted it to feel a bit like a rock in the end, so I added these almost Garganacl-like designs to the stones all over and removed the shiny, and I think it made a really cool pattern to have it on the big old rock snake itself. Magnetics, the rounded Pokemon, a rock and electric type. Onix evolves into Magnetics after using Rock Polish 30 times and hitting level 40. Magnetics are older Pokemon that move slowly through the ground. Their smooth exterior glides through the rough ground and will pick up magnetic sand all over their body. Unlike their other evolutions, Magnetics is kind and will avoid disturbing the tunnels of Drillbur and Diglett. These Pokemon thank Magnetics by gathering minerals and other delicious stones to eat. Magnetics have the abilities Sturdy and Magnet Pull. Our target next is Wailmer, and this one isn't a specific entry here, It's kind of all of them, speaking about once being land-based creatures and also filling up and bouncing like a beach ball. And all I can think about is some sort of weird land whale, but also it's based on a beach ball and floaty, so maybe it should be a sky whale. Don't worry, Sir Titan, you aren't useless yet. So yeah, my idea here was to create a sort of much larger but similar looking whale Pokemon. Instead of just being able to float in the sky, it does a similar thing to Wailmer, but instead of taking in seawater, it takes in a whole bunch of air to lift itself up. So now it has these massive puffy cheeks. It was hard to show it both being a sky whale with the cheeks and the air shooting out of the blowhole, but also show that it can move on land. So I opted to give it some more split apart arms and legs so it could crawl along. And although, let's be honest, if I could fly in this way, I absolutely would almost always be in the sky. That's just a dream of mine. I had trouble with the rendering on this one, it just never hit right, but I think in the end I did manage to get there. Although, if I ever want to go back, I think I'd make the Pokemon a little bit longer to make it feel like an in-between of Wailmer and a Whale Lord shape. Saline, the air whale Pokemon, a water and flying type. Evolves from Wailmer after using Bounce in a high place. Saline, a terrestrial Pokemon that use sucked-in air to float around, and will expel this air to launch themselves with shocking speed. Able to move on land, they'll rarely stay on the ground for too long due to fear of attack from packs of Weavile, trying to have enough food for months. Saline have the abilities Water Veil and Filter. Okay, next up is Swirlix, the real cutie of a Pokemon. This time it's Pokemon Sword entry. It eats its own weight in sugar every day. If it doesn't get enough sugar, it becomes incredibly grumpy. Swirlix being based on a dog got me thinking of some kind of big grumpy bulldog. Imagine this Swirlix on all fours, but just overloaded with sugar and giving that big grumpy doggy energy, with the underbite and everything. I never expected Swirlix to evolve into Slurpuff, and before we found out it did evolve, I painted an idea for its Evo, being some kind of sugar yeti, looking close to what I have here. I thought the candy corn teeth was an inspired choice, but I do kind of wish I doubled down on the candy part, giving it a few more candy references all over. But hey, I think it's cute and kinda sassy too, just like me. Sugarruff, the candy Pokemon, a fairy and dark type. Evolves from Swirlix when not given any items for free in-game days. As Swirlix, it gets so angry from lack of sugar evolves into Sugarruff. They will then become the biggest sugar fiend around, attacking anything to get at sugary sweets. Their coat is thick and sticky and unpleasant to touch. Some smaller Pokemon may find themselves getting stuck. Sugarruff have the abilities Sweet Veil and Anger Point. Okay, Ditto time, and what could I have done here? Well, Ditto's Ruby and Sapphire entry states, Ditto rearranges its cell structure to transform itself into other shapes. However, if it tries to transform itself into something by relying on its memory, this Pokemon manages to get details wrong. Idea for this one is based off all those ideas of that Ditto is a failed clone of Mew, so its evolution would obviously be based off Mewtwo, sort of. This Ditto saw Mew and Mewtwo and has tried to recreate the classic itself, but is now in a state of constant morphing and has turned out wrong. It has Mewtwo's build, but slightly melted and is looking quite silly now, having Mew's face with its nostrils being Ditto's actual eyes. I really wanted to show that sort of goopy feeling in the art, so their tails make a sort of DNA helix shape, but also it's just slurping around all nasty like. I think this would never truly happen in game if we did ever get a Ditto Evo, but hey, a professor can dream of horrid goop abominations, right? Ditto, the imperfection Pokemon, a pure normal type. Evolves from Ditto after transforming into Mewtwo and Mew. Ditto, in an attempt to become the ultimate life form, ended up evolving into a strange new form instead. Ditto's body is unstable, constantly morphing between different legendary Pokemon, but imperfect in their looks. Ditto is loving and strangely squishy to the touch. Ditto has a new ability called Imperfect Imposter, where this Pokemon transforms into a seen Pokemon with a type advantage against the opponent, with a random +1 and -1 to some stats. And that's all the Dex entry evolutions I have for today. Did we crack the case? What case? Who knows? Maybe if you like, subscribe, and share the video around, I may tell you. And don't forget to check out my memberships if you are feeling extra supportive. Alright, time for the next case. Hope you'll be there with me, partner. See you next time.
You gotta do this one for me, Billy.
Okay, for you.
Well, McGonagall, Billy is dead.